You've heard about Vincent Chin.
Yes, I have.
You know, have you read all the information about?
Well, I was actually in Ann Arbor when the murder happened, right? So I graduated from Pioneer High School, which is in Ann Arbor, in 1983. And the incident happened in the summer of 1982, right? So I did hear about the murder of Vincent Chin, not actually the same day, but a few days later. That was a little bit shocking because at the time, a lot of the blame was focused on Japanese cars, and I was trying to process it, but my brother, older by 3, he was pretty much outraged. I think he took it much more personally. I got a feeling that Ann Arbor being kind of isolated from Detroit and not being dependent on the car industry, because there are not a lot of factory workers for the big 3 that actually lived in Ann Arbor. The next step that I think that was a bit of an outrage was when the justice system was very lenient on the 2 perpetrators. And when the judge said, these are the kind of men that you don't send to prison, I think that's when everything kind of blew up in terms of the outrage, because how can a person's life be only worth a small fine and a probationary period? I did get involved with some of the petitions, and one of the lead lawyers, I think her name is Eliza Chan, I think she went around to many university campuses and trying to engage students to get them more involved. And I think that was successful. That was actually pivotal in my own view of being engaged with the community, because growing up in Ann Arbor, there wasn't really a Japanese American, let alone Japanese community, because it was such a small population. That actually got me more aligned to what Asian American really means. And it gave me a little bit of a snapshot of how large, or at least large enough, the Asian American community was at the time in the Detroit, Ann Arbor area.
Will continue to ask the judge to vacate his present invalid sentence and to...
The presence of this much activity from Asian Americans, let it be known, we will not accept this silently. This is the opposite of gaman, right? They were being very vocal about, we will not accept this. And I thought that voice was very good.
That's when all these organizations start to form, Chinese groups and Indian groups and Arabic groups. There's loads of groups like that because of the Vincent Chin incident, which is good.
So it got me to think more in terms of Asian American identity. And it was actually pivotal, and actually for me to actually start to pursue Japanese and study Japanese language, actually. From that incident forward, when I entered university, I decided that I will re-engage and start to learn Japanese language again. Yes. So it was somewhat identity forming as well, because up until that time, I grew up in a very Midwestern, very predominantly white or Western European environment. If you look at some of my class photos, I'm usually the only Asian kid or Japanese kid, which was fine. So once the Vincent Chin incident happened, it kind of woke me up a little bit that, oh, there's this other community of Asian Americans, and that the economic competitiveness of Japanese cars and car companies led me to kind of like, oh, I need to kind of investigate this side of my heritage, because I'd kind of avoided it with my parents because they were always trying to push me in that direction. And of course, you kind of rebelled and resist that. But with this, I naturally gravitated to wanting to find out more, wanting to study Japanese and learning about that. And, eventually I actually did, live and work in Japan for a while. But I think the Vincent Chin incident in many ways brought the attention of Asian Americans as a community, especially in the Midwest, not like New York, especially like if it's New York or California, it'll be different.
Yeah, well, I was very active with Vincent Chin, then I was acting director and secretary.
So you were involved in JACL Detroit or with a different organization?
No, it wasn't JACL.
Okay.
JACL supported Vincent Chin's case, and so we started this organization for the Vincent Chin. and I went to the trial every day.
Oh, so you and Lily got to know each other quite well.
Yeah.
Okay. And she was grieving, of course, right?
Oh, she was. It was so sad to watch her, taking these trips all over to speak to people.
We all worked very hard to get justice for my son, Vincent.
And it ended out that they weren't doing anything, and she was on the losing end. And, we tried so hard to try to build her up, every time we saw her, because she was just failing. She went back to China and started a children's school in memory of Vincent. And then she stayed there for a while, and then she came back to the States, and she died of cancer. And so, it stayed with all of us. We still talk about Vincent Chin and what we went through, because all of us were really got into the case, because it could have happened to somebody.
It could have happened to anyone that looked like Vincent, right?
Yeah, so,
Watch One Detroit, Thursday at 7:30 p.m. You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.